Hello and welcome back. How did you go on those time wasters? Was there one or two that jumped out to you, or was it more like a bit of a package deal? Was it a situation that, I didn't plan my day before I left the office, I came in the next day, had to touch everything on my messy desk, then something shifted my priorities because I had a phone interruption, someone then dropped in, a system wasn't used effectively, I delegated something ineffectively, it's come back and bit me, I had the inability to say no, and then finally you actually walk into a meeting to actually relax and get out of there. So be very, very careful that understanding these can really have a big impact in terms of your productivity. The second thing that you did in this particular section was the lifetime reality check. How did you go there? What is your choice time left? And remember, this is the time you've got to make the decisions and take the actions to produce the results to allow you to move forward. That's probably enough of the dilemma conversation. Let's now look into where do we head from here. So to help us with this, we're going to have a look at the 80-20 rule. Now let's actually start to look how we can increase your focus. Well, we're going to look at the 80-20 rule in terms of time, activities, and results. You may have heard of the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle before. A very, very simple example of it is that 20% of your clothes at home get 80% of the wear. Typically, in terms of clients, there are 20% of clients that produce 80% of the revenue. Not the case in all businesses, but this 80-20 phenomena is very, very important. It absolutely works in terms of time, activities, and results, and that's exactly what we're going to focus on here right now. So from an activity point of view, out of everything that you could do, there is a core 20% of activities that drives a massive 80% of the results. So if you can't get everything done in your day, let's at least make sure we get the 20% of activities done to produce the result. The problem is, and have you ever had a day where you get to the end of the day and think, what did I actually get done today? You see, what quite often happens when we get in the morning, we think, let's get rid of these few little things first. And if we actually look at this is actually majoring in the minors. We're actually working in this low section here on the small activities. I'll just get these out of the way before I actually start to work on the major and important things. So these activities, the top 20%, we could call these dollar productive activities and results producing activities. And when we focus on those two, what will happen is it has a major impact on the results we produce. Given the key resource that we put into the day is our time then, what we're saying is we want to make sure that we're investing our time in the activities. How would it be if we put 80% of our time into the 20% of activities that produce 80% of the results? And really what this particular conversation and focus is all about is firstly, what are the activities? And then making sure we invest our time in those activities so we're guaranteed to produce a great result at the end of the day. Very, very simple and very, very effective. So the quote that really represents this very, very well is this one. It's not the hours you put in that count, it's actually what you put into the hours. And a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs get caught up in this particular mode of putting more hours into their day as opposed to stepping back from that and saying, am I putting the right things into my day? In many, many cases, you can reduce your hours that you're working, put better balance into your life. That's fitness, that's family, that's friends, and actually still produce a better result. It's not how many hours you work that count, it's actually what you put into those particular hours. Now, to help us with that, we've developed an achiever matrix that we're going to actually work through. This is already in your workbook, but we'll actually add some detail to it to really help you understand it. Let's have a look at it now. Well, if we look at the essence of a priority, there are two components to a priority. Firstly, how important the issue is, so how much value is it adding, in other words, and how urgent it is in terms of the kind of time frame. Something due in the next 5 minutes is very, very urgent. But that same request due in a week's time is not that urgent. So there's this continuum of urgency from high to low. And already in your workbooks, you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we're saying, 1 is high in importance, but it's actually low in urgency. A 2 is both high in importance and also high in urgency. A 3 is not very important, but it's very urgent. It's yelling. And then 4 is not important and it's not urgent. Let's actually add some detail to this, and then after we've done this, we'll actually have a quality conversation around where is it you're adding value in terms of your time, and how do you need to reallocate your time effectively to produce the result. So first of all, we could call a 1 kind of a work style is a proactive way of working. A 2 is a reactive way of working. So in most businesses and most leaders need to have a combination of being proactive as well as reactive to what's occurring. Interestingly enough, though, if you're always over in 2, you'll find you're pretty much in a crisis management work style. Whereas if you're in 1, it'll feel more so a sense of control, a feeling of being in control. So we could say a 1 is about how well we're planning, and 2 is about how well we are responding to what's actually occurring. Interesting enough, most of the things in 1 are self-initiated, self-generated. In other words, if you're going to have a proactive work style, it's because you've planned it and you've actually worked out what are the projects, what are the things you need to put into place. Most of the things in 2 are initiated by others. You know, that interruption, that request, that inability to say no, to take things on board, suddenly can have you off track from where you actually wanted to achieve. So I'd like to suggest to you it's a combination of 1 and 2 to be very effective. There are some people out there, though, that are very good at what's called self-induced crisis. In other words, they could have done something last week, didn't worry about it, and now it's got to the deadline, and suddenly it's over in crisis mode, well and truly. Now, here's the interesting thing. Without knowing your work style, but the clients that we work with at 10X across the world literally are in a mode of needing to improve the way they're working, improving your focus, if you like, in what you're actually achieving. Without knowing your work style, I can pretty much guarantee you need to increase the amount of time you spend in 1. So if we're going to increase the amount of time we're spending in 1, where are we going to take it from? A lot of people say, 2, I'll just take it from 2. You know what? Initially, that will not be a great strategy. The reason being, those things that are sitting there in 2 are actually important and they're urgent. There's a very good chance that you need to get these off your plate and get these happening. The strategy that I'm going to suggest is we need to have a look down at 3 and 4. You see, in 3 and 4, these are the ones that aren't adding much value. Remember 80-20 rule? The 20% of activities are sitting at the top, 80% are sitting down below here. So let's give a couple of labels to 3 and 4. The first one, a 3, we call that the realm of distractions. These things are almost sent to test whether they can get us off course or off track. And 4 is even worse than that. This is the realm of delusion. Spending time in doing stuff in here is like delusionary. Like, what am I doing? I can't. Producing no result whatsoever. So even though they take time and they can take you off track and off course, they're not actually adding value to the result. Now, important point here. A lot of things in 3 are this urgent interruption kind of factor. If you're not in the office for, say, half a day, or not around for half a day, or maybe even a day, there are a lot of things that occur in 3 that the team handles without you. But when you're there, because you're there, you actually get these things arriving and landing to you. So think about that for a moment. And by the way, I'm not suggesting, okay, more holidays and let the team actually make decisions. What I am suggesting is that we need to empower the team to actually have them running those particular strategies rather than you falling into the trap of actually doing that work. See, if I come to you and say I'm not sure how to handle this, and you handle it for me, what we will pretty quickly do is to develop a work habit to say that's how you want to work. Very, very ineffective. So in terms of 3, there are 2 key strategies to look at. The first one is to delegate. It is very, very appropriate for you to use delegation as the most effective form of on-the-job training. So if someone comes up to you and says, hey, I'm not sure how to handle this, the first thing you ought to do is ask them, well, how would you, or what do you think in terms of handling it? See, if you always give me the answer, it's the whole, are you giving me a fish, or are you actually teaching me how to fish? Feed me for a day, or actually teach me how to do it so I can feed myself ongoingly. So as a team, in fact, one of the big difficulties here is you can find yourself in a situation that if you actually are answering all the questions of the team all the time, you will get very little of your work done during the typical work hours. So therefore, what do? You extend the work hours and suddenly you're doing a heap of other work. Now, the question, I don't know, what do you think, or what do you think is the best way to handle this, is a great question to be asking when someone actually arrives to you and asks you a question. The reason for that is they're not paid just to show up and turn up. They're paid to actually turn on to the results that they want to produce. So make decisions, take actions, and produce great results. So in relation to that, delegate. Very important that you increase the amount of delegation that you're doing. The second important ingredient here is leverage. Now, leverage is very simple. And if it's worth doing again, it's important that we create systems for it. So the idea of leverage is there something that you're doing that's currently taking 2 hours that could be done in 20 minutes? The answer is probably yes. But we haven't actually spent the time putting the system in place or training someone to be able to do it. Leverage typically is done either through people or through better systems to be able to allow that to produce a great result. Over here in 4, the realm of delusion, there are 2 very simple strategies here. Just stop it, and this is the stuff you absolutely ought to be saying no to. Now, here's the interesting deal I'm happy to cut with you right now. You can spend as much time in 3 and 4 that you would like. As much time. You can do whatever you'd like in terms of 3 and 4. But the key thing is you can spend as much time in 3 and 4 only after you finish your 1s and 2s. So if you look at any priority list for the week or for the month or for the day, there's a whole series of things that will be up in 1 and 2. It's important, but it's not urgent. Well, you know what? Quite often what will happen is you'll fall into the classic trap of doing like a 2-3 work style, working just in urgency mode all the time. What we're saying here at 10X, we need to flip that around and move from a 2-3 work style to a 1-2 work style. Once you've got that in place, suddenly you start to really progress and very much move forward in terms of the results. So what I'd love you to do right now is pause the DVD, have a great conversation with your 10X coach as to where are you focused right now. Do you need to increase the amount of time in 1? I think that's probably the case. And then start to look at, well, okay, what can you do to start to reallocate and refocus your time so you can be producing an even better result? Remember, it's not the hours you put in that count, it's what you put into the hours. And once you're actually putting the right things into the hours, suddenly your results improve dramatically. And also remember, your business is a reflection of you. So the more you're actually putting the right things into your day, the right things into your week, the more your team start to step up to the plate in terms of putting those particular ingredients in. Now, importantly here, we're not saying the 3s and 4s don't get done. They just don't get done by you. They get done by someone other than you who's actually better skilled and better prepared to be able to do that particular work. Enjoy the conversation. Look forward to seeing you back shortly.